Omar, go ahead. Good morning, everyone. Greetings from Times Square, New York City. I was staying at a friend's place for the last 10 or 12 days. They came back last night, and so I am now in the hotel in Times Square. Right now, hotels in New York are very cheap. Cheaper than hotels in Asheville, in my little town, because there's too many hotels and no visitors. But New York is back. But still, Friday rush hour traffic, no one has like squished my face onto in the subway yet, so not completely back. It's right now, just like this, you know, the next phase, as opposed to when New York is completely back on a Friday rush hour, it will be like Then when you are shorter than many Americans, you know, it's this that you smell, you know, when they put their hand up holding. It turned cold, about 50 degrees now. So last night, and I didn't bring anything for 50 degrees, so last night in the rain, cold, walked around and around looking something to buy and found this. And of course, umbrella prices also go up, you know, when it rains. So although there are many shops around, you know, those shops that sell souvenirs and sell umbrella, those shops, you know, I've noticed there's never a price tag on anything, which is unusual in the US. So that means, you know, don't buy umbrellas from them when it's raining. So again, I walked and walked in the rain. It was pouring, it's all wet, until I found Staples, which is a store that sells office goods, paper, printer, you know. But I know that it often has umbrellas. So I went in there, finally found a Staples, and found an umbrella that is a standard price, not because it's raining. Then this morning, went out and found McDonald's, which I usually don't go to, and got a coffee. McDonald's, it's not generally not good for your health, but it's reliably bad. So when you're in a place that you don't know, you know, at least you know what you're getting yourself into. Also, it seems like it's mid-Manhattan on a Saturday is not awake yet. So the Starbucks around the corner is also not open, which is kind of surprising. But McDonald's is open, and a lot of homeless people are in there. At least one service that they're doing is homeless people, and because it's raining and cold this morning. Anyway, very happy that even though I'm on the road, that you have been patient, and due to the power of technology, we're able to continue this. and most grateful for Claudia and Waiting to translate this into Spanish and Chinese. So maybe Claudia and Waiting, you want to just summarize the nonsense that I've been talking about. It's not Dharma. You don't need to translate everything. Just say in Spanish, "Hola," That summarizes everything I just said.
刚刚就是李博士，就是从纽约市跟大家打个招呼。他目前在在一间旅馆中，因为就是现在在纽约的旅馆非常的便宜，然后现在就是天气非常的寒冷，然后就非常感恩说我们有这一个依赖现在的科技，让我们能够可以持续，哪怕它是在旅途中，但是我们依然可以持续这一个活动，所以非常感恩，也非常感恩另外一位 Claudia 还有我两个人在担任这个翻译。
Just noticing this wallpaper works pretty good for for a backdrop. Okay, let's begin with the opening recitations. So aspiration Bodhicitta recitation followed by action Bodhicitta recitation, taking refuge in Buddha Dharma Sangha, generating the four immeasurable minds. Then the summary of the 7-limbed puja in one verse. That we will chant on a slower pace. Following that, I'm going to recite prayers to the lineage and also the mandala offering to request for the teachings from the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
接下来我们开始今天的就是祈愿文，然后就是像往常一样，一开始是愿菩提心的持诵，就是那个偈颂是关于愿菩提心，然后到行菩提心，然后皈依，然后是无量心，然后是有一个偈颂是关于七支供养，然后七支供养之后，然后李博士就会持诵就是祈愿文，是向传承上师祈请，还有就是做供曼达来请访。
Sama gege bardu longa yisum gewa lago mashi bardu longa yisum gewa lago du derine sundene ma santa samji bardu longa yisum gewa lago Jodan soji chonam la janju bardu dane gyabsuji Dagye Jinsu Gebe Sonange Drola Benjir Sanje Drubroshu Sanje Chodan Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dane Kemsu Che Dagye Jinsu Gebe Sonange Drola Benjir Sanje Drubroshu Sanje Chodan Sogi Chonam La Chanchu Bardu Dane Kemsu Che Dagye Jinsu Gebe Sonange Drola Benjir Sanje Drubroshu Manam Kadan Yampe Senchen Tam Je De Wadang De Wen Gendan Dembro Girji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Ki Gyudan Drawa Girji Dungyao Me Pe De Wadang Me Drawa Girji Nering Chadang Nidang Drawa Tangyao La Nebra Girji Manam Kadan Yampe Senchen Tam Je De Wadang De Wen Gendan Dembro Girji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Ki Gyudan Drawa Girji Dungyao Me Pe De Wadang Me Drawa Girji Nering Chadang Nidang Drawa Tangyao La Nebra Girji Manam Kadan Yampe Senchen Tam Je De Wadang De Wen Gendan Dembro Girji Dungyao Dang Dungyao Ki Gyudan Drawa Girji Dungyao Me Pe De Wadang Me Drawa Girji Nering Chadang Nidang Drawa Tangyao La Nebra Girji Wadang Jujing Shabada Jese Yirang Kushing Sowa Ye Gewa Jungse Dagye Jisangpa Tamche Sobe Jamche Chirngo Jamche Dele Naro Dang Marmi Dabo Batu Jidin Gung Kadrin Sunden Sawe Lamesha Sajyu Lama Yidam Chokyong La Sowa Depso Dagyu Jinju Lo Kepdengi Dome Samlingi Rape Dongsun Yong La Kya Tsome Kya Wa Doje Changpa Jindin Gumbo Shabla Du Takdu Sangyu Gyole Me Jinji Lo Shi Tuje Jindingi Mumpel Sene Kya Sentro Dedu Dobra Jinji Lo Ujien Yuji No Changsa Pema Gesa Tongpo La Ya Sen Chugi Ngodrum Nye Pema Jungne Shishudra Kodu Kandu Mambu Kodu Keki Jisa Tadrun Ki Jinji Labji Shisu So Guru Pema Siddhu Chugi Nigi Podane Dusun Sanji Gunji Ngoboni Ransen Chugu Ngonsu Tonzeba Sawe Lame Shabla Sowa Bagi Jusu Medra Rira Lenshi Ninde Gemba De Sanje Shindu Mekte Puwa Ye Drogu Namda Shinla Gewa Shu Guzun Yonzo Lame Tsunamla Chinang Sangsun Denshin Nege Ju Dalu Longjo Nangsi Yonshela Lame Chogi Ngodum Sadu Jozo Wadang Jojin Shab Jisu Yirang Gushin Sowa Ye Kewa Junse Dage Jisaba Tamche Sobe Chanchu Chilngo Guru Deva Thakini Rena Mandala Prate Joso Semche Namgi Samba Loye Jita Jitawa Chechun Tumon Tepa Ye Jogi Kolo Kordu So just wanted to also say, as we were doing the recitation, if sometimes, you hear me, when we're supposed to say 3 times, I say 2 times, or I say 4 times, Please, you should not think, oh, he knows what he is doing. No, he lost mindfulness, There's too much, I think, of I don't know, it's in a way you can say, yes, certain traditional things says, oh, you should look at the teacher and think, everything the teacher does is for my benefit, blah, blah, blah. It's certainly good that we don't walk around finding faults in other people. But at the same time, if we excessively think, oh, everything that the teacher does, there's a reason, there's a purpose. It's the first step to a very slippery slope that in the end will harm the teacher, then will harm you. It's not healthy, I think. See, it for what it is, they say, don't find fault. Yes, Jesus said, you only see, like the splinter in someone's eye and not the log in your own. Yes, we always turn things around to look at ourselves. But it's good to see that there is something in the other person's eye. If it can help you to look for the log that is in your eye, but nonetheless there is something in the other person's eye that maybe if you kindly, rather than judgmentally, tell the other person, hey, there is a splinter about to maybe poke your eye, let's remove it. Yeah. So that's important, I think, and to me that's a sensible way to relate to each other.
那刚刚我们在做祈愿文的时候，可能大家会就是发现，一般上我们可能就是李博士会持诵3次，但是如果当你发现他持诵2次或者是4次的时候，那可能就会有一个想法，就是说，哦，他知道他在干嘛，然后其实实际上他可能就是失念了，所以其实是当我们看到我们的上师或者是说法师的时候，当然我们不要随意的就是去去找他的毛病，但是在这样的理解的过程，我们必须要非常小心。我们知道上师或者是说法师他们做的一切事情都是为了我们好，但是如果他本身有任何行为上的不恰当，我们也要如实的知道，因为如果一味的盲从，把所有上师的一个行为视为合理化的话，其实是非常危险，就是到最后他可能会伤害我们，也可能会伤害到上师。所以我们需要记得的就是不要随意的去就看到对方的一个缺点，然后把它放大，但是我们也要清楚，必须要理智的去对待，就是当我们看到对方的一些毛病，然后看到那个毛病，然后再用那样的毛病来提醒我们去观察在我们自己身上的这样的毛病，那是非常好。但是如果当我们发现对方有某一些毛病，而出于善意去提醒对方的话，其实是对于双方都是比较合理的一个关系的维持。
So mainly, if we relate to each other with non-grasping care and kindness and love, we can never go wrong. We don't need fancier, things.
主要的就是当我们和上师之间的关系，如果能够维持在一个不执着的关心和善意跟爱上面，那我们之间的关系就不会出现任何的毛病。
highest level of Attain Mahamudra, it is directly related to perceiving the Lama as Buddha. We're talking about the highest level. I would say, at the very least, if you're not on the first Bodhisattva bhumi, I don't think it's possible to genuinely. We might project onto that person all kinds of ideas that we have and say, oh, you are Buddha. I think unless you're at least on the first Bodhisattva bhumi, that method won't serve you too well.
是确实在就是大手印的最高的一个层次是说，我们要将上师视为佛，但是要能够做到这一点，我们必须至少在初地以上。那如果我们本身还没有到达这一个境界的话，可能这一个方法对我们并没有那么有效。
Yeah, at the highest level of practice, again, as I say, we mean like, on the Bodhisattva bhumis, and in fact, 8, 9, 10 bhumis. It is said that it is when one truly and ultimately perceives the nature of the Guru's mind as Dharmakaya, which means, not like projecting, but actually seeing as Dharmakaya, which then allows us to see our own mind as Dharmakaya. Yeah, so that is the method in Mahamudra. But premature application of that method will just lead to the compounding of confusions.
确实在整个最高的一个修行层次里头，那就是说，当我们是在菩萨地，比如说像第9、第10、第8、第9、第10地的菩萨，那我们确实是能够看清我们的上师的心就是法身。那这一个方法其实是，当我们能够看到我们的上师的心就是法身的时候，其实我们也能够看到我们自己的心是法身，而那个并不是一个投射，而是一种能力。但是如果我们还没有到达那个程度的话，这样反而会带来坏处。
Yeah, just my opinion for you to consider.
这就是李博士的一个建议，希望能够参考。
So I think one non-technical way of explaining bodhicitta, especially to people who are not yet ready for all the technical definitions, I think you can say, if you want to use non-technical and to communicate the idea to someone else who is asking you, what are you studying? What is this thing every Tuesday, Saturday? You can say the overall topic is learning how to genuinely care for others without fixation or self-grasping.
那李博士有一个建议，就是说，就是对于一些不熟悉菩提心这样的一个专门术语的一般大众来说，那如果我们要去沟通，我们到底每个星期2、星期6在上些什么的时候，其实一个比较单纯的一个方式，我们可以这样来表达，就是说，其实我们在学习的这个主题是学习怎么纯粹的去关怀他人。
It's not easy.
关怀他人并不容易。
Not caring for others is worse.
然后不关心他人是更加糟糕的。
So we don't have a choice.
所以我们并没有太多的选择。
So we have to learn how to care for others from the place of non-grasping.
我们要学习怎么样不执着的去关怀他人。
So that non-grasping pertains to wisdom, pertains to absolute bodhicitta. Then the caring part pertains to relative bodhicitta.
而那个不执着是和究竟的菩提心有关系，就和智慧的层面有关系，而那个关怀的层面则是和世俗的菩提心有关系。
The caring part, it's all the details of love and compassion, and making the resolve to become Buddha. Those are the three elements in relative bodhicitta.
那关于那个关怀的部分是所有慈悲的一个细节，还有就是包含我们想要发愿成就无上佛果位的决心。
The wisdom part is the wisdom of emptiness, the wisdom of selflessness, in all its more and more profound levels to be developed.
而智慧的层面则是关于空性的智慧，还有就是无私的智慧，无我的智慧。
Yeah, so now Shantideva last time, I believe, we arrived at verse 8 and 9 in the second chapter, and the chapter on confession.
上一次的课程我们是谈到第2章的第8。
Chapter 2 and 3, as I mentioned last time, they go together because it leads up to the generation of Bodhicitta. So chapter 2 and 3, in a way, Shantideva is giving the ceremony. So of course the ceremony itself, if we do it, but we don't understand it and we don't mean it, not useful. At the same time, if we don't have a ceremony, for most of us it's not enough to kind of let this vow kind of be stable. So for that reason, there is a ceremony given to kind of formalize. So chapter 2 and 3 becomes also the basis for later on other people to compose Bodhicitta vow ceremonies based on the elements that Shantideva gave in chapter 2 and 3. And then there are, of course, other sources too that describe and prescribe how the Bodhicitta generation or the Bodhisattva vow, sometimes also called that ceremony, is to be given.
那第2、第3章就是吉天菩萨撰写第2、第3章是要让我们能够就之后升起菩提心，所以它其实是延续成一个仪轨。那如果这个仪式这个仪轨我们不了解，然后我们去做的话，其实它并没有太大的益处。但是如果我们没有这样的一个比较正式的仪轨、正式的一个仪式的话，其实对于大部分的我们来说，其实想要升起这样的一个愿心、这样的誓愿是不足够的。所以我们必须要有一个这样的规范，就是很正统的一个规范。然后而这个第2、第3章，其实后来也是很多后人在撰写菩萨戒的时候会参考的一个依据。
So in terms of the ceremony, then 2 parts. The first part is the ngondo, the foundations for supporting the actual ceremony. The foundation for supporting the actual ceremony is the 7-limbed puja. Within the 7-limbed puja, then you have the actual ceremony of generating bodhicitta.
那关于这个仪轨的话，它有2个部分，第一个部分是前行，就是基础的一个内容，这基础的内容环绕在7支供养，然后在7支供养之中会谈到怎么去升起菩提心。
The first of the 7 limbs is to pay homage. So, according to one way of explaining chapter 2 and 3, the first verse of chapter 2 pertains to paying homage.
然后就是在7支供养里头，第一个就是礼敬。那在第2章第1偈就是关于礼敬的这个内容。
The second limb is making offerings of all sorts. So we are in the midst of that.
那第2个就是7支供养之2就是供养，然后就供养各式各样的供养。
So verses 2 to 7, we have seen Shantideva teaching us how to take all the things that are not owned by anyone in particular. Basically, all the wonders and pleasures that nature affords us. Take all of that and then offer to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
从第2偈到第7偈，就是关于怎么样利用就是所有的大自然的这个奥妙，然后这一切不属于任何人的东西，然后我们把它拿来供养。
So if we use this method, that means Shantideva is also recommending that we let our senses be alive to the beauty that is around us. Look for that beauty, not so much to grasp at, to be attached to, but don't be afraid, to see that which is beautiful that is around us, and then offer that beauty to the objects of refuge.
那如果我们用这个方法的话，其实吉天菩萨是在建议我们、推荐我们怎么让我们的感官变得更加的鲜活，就是对于身边一切的美丽能够更加的就是有觉知，然后看着这一些美好的东西。然后不要去执取它，不要去害怕这一些美好的东西，然后再把它拿来供养。
Now, of course, it doesn't just mean, like, oh, I don't live in a place where I can see beautiful nature, so I am not able to offer in this way. It doesn't mean that.
那当然，如果它并不表示说我们并没有处在就非常美丽的环境里面，我们就不能够去供养。
Wherever you are, even, like me walking around in Times Square. Again, I don't think we have to take so literally, according to Shantideva, the things that are not owned by anyone. And you don't have to be so literal, walk around going, wait, is that owned by someone or not owned by someone? Can I offer that or can I not offer that, Mainly, whatever our eyes, our nose, our ears experience, that we have a sense of delight, our mind become bright and, we're in a good place. That experience, whether it's out in nature or, if looking at, the display at Macy's, in Times Square, delights you, you offer that.
那当然，我们不需要就是那么呆板的，就是说，就只能够就供养我们看得到的大自然。其实就是把我们感官所经验到的一切愉悦的感受，就比如说我们走到了外面，然后可能像李博士在就是时代广场附近走，当眼睛或者是耳朵听闻到任何的美妙的，就是视觉的境，或者是耳根的境，然后都可以拿来供养。
So Kyoba Rinpoche, Jigten Sumgan, that is. Kyoba Rinpoche, in one of these Vajra statements, he says, it is skillful to mentally grasp all the things that is in the world that don't even belong to you, and then offer them.
在就是雇主吉田颂公在他的金刚句里头，其中一句他就有提到说，我们可以非常善巧的怎么去抓取这个世界上任何美妙的东西，然后再拿它来供养。
Now you might say, wait, is it better not to encourage this grasping? Why does he say, it's skillful? It is skillful to mentally grasp things that don't belong to you. Or maybe also don't belong to others, don't belong to anyone in particular, and offer them. Isn't it better just not to grasp and then not to offer? You might have a thought like this.
可能心里面会想，是不是比较好，就是不要去执取任何的东西，而就是去抓取任何我们看得到不属于别人的东西，然后再拿来供养。可能我们会有这样的一个疑虑。
I think Kyoba Rinpoche made this Vajra statement because he understands, how we are addicted and habituated to grasping. So much so that even when we think we're not grasping, on a subtle level, right? You walk past the things that you like, you are repressed. Oh, I should not, but you're repressing, So on a deeper level, some kind of grasping is going on, yeah, and it can be deep and subtle, and it can be very hidden. So in this method of skillfully grasping, to me at least, I'm not saying my interpretation is absolutely correct. I'm offering this as a thought. To me, what he's saying is a way to more naturally, not repressed, but just let loose a little bit, and yes, the things that we have habituated to liking, to wanting, to desiring, let it come up, yeah, and then in that moment when it has come up, know to let go of it. Not let go with disdain, not let go with guilt, not let go with aggression, but let go with reverence, let go with devotion, and offer it. To me, it's such a gentle way, such an effective way, so that we're not repressing on the one hand. Sometimes, if we don't know how to practice renunciation, it's a very tight and very judgmental and done out of disdain, right? That's bad, that's bad, that's bad, that's bad. You walk around labeling everything as bad. But it's the type of repression. And eventually it'll come back up. When the conditions come together, you will suddenly do things that you never thought you would do. That's arising out of some external imposition on you, saying this is not good, this is not good. This method doesn't work so well, I think. So what Shantideva taught here, and then I brought in some of Kyoba Rinpoche's way of talking about this. So this offering of unowned objects, I think, verse 6 to 7, we can learn skillful ways of relating to the things that we like, the things that we desire.
那关于这一个内容，就是说，就是为什么就是雇主吉田颂公会这样提到，我们也可以善巧的就用心的去抓取这世界上一切不属于任何人的东西来供养，因为其实就是吉田颂公非常的清楚，这个是我们的一个习气，我们就习惯于抓取，习惯于执取，但是我们常常就会去压抑它。那当我们在压抑的时候，其实它就会变得更深沉，然后更加的微妙。 然后如果我们能够这样善巧的去抓取，然后其实是很自然的，不去压抑它，而是让我们这个就是习惯抓取这样的一个习气可以浮现出来，然后我们把它放下，然后不是以一种就是反抗的一种态度来放下，而是以一个充满虔诚的心来放下，所以它是非常有效而且非常温和的一个方式。然后有时候我们可能并不知道怎么样来练习，就是出离，然后我们很多时候可能就到处就会把很多的东西标签为是不好的，但是如果当就是因缘聚合的时候，我们可能就会产生非常大的反弹，会做出很多我们想象不到的事情。所以我们可以学习这一种很善巧的直取的方式来就是练习出离。
Then verse 8 and 9 is the offering of this body. So this body is the basis of all these experiences that we're having. Right? It's the basis for the sensual experiences, experience of the senses, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch, on the basis of this body. So now, after teaching the offering of things that we, the objects of our desire, now is teaching the basis of this desire, this body. So the entirety of this body is also offered to the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. So both subject and object of grasping, in a way you could say. Yeah, the gross subject of grasping is this body. The subtle subject of this grasping, right, is the mind, of course. But this mind doesn't exist independent of this body. So the gross subject, that which is doing the desiring, the gross subject, is the body. So now we offer that as well.
那第8和第9偈是关于这个身体，这一个感官，就是一切感官经验的这个基础。然后，当我们已经供养了我们的就是欲望的，就是贪欲所执取的一切对象，那这一个执取的主体，这个执取的主体就是这个身体，那我们也一起供养出去。
10 and 13, verses 10 to 13 is the offering of basically spa treatment for the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
然后第10到第13偈是一个供养，那供养就是。
So we'll read these 4 verses together. The interpretation room as well. A bathing chamber excellently fragrant, with even floors of crystal radiant and clear, and graceful pillars shimmering with gems, all hung about with gleaming canopies of pearls. There the blissful Buddhas and their heirs outbathe with many precious bays, abrim with water fragrant and delightful, all to frequent strains of melody and song, with cloths of unexampled quality, with spotless perfumed towels I will dry them, and offer splendid scented clothes, well dyed and of surpassing excellence, with different garments light and supple, and 100 beautiful adornments I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Menjugosha, Lokeshwara, and their kin. And so this is offering a spa to the Buddhas and to the Bodhisattvas.
这就是供养的，就温泉浴 类的一个供养，就是温泉浴类的供养给诸佛菩萨。
So next time when you want to treat yourself to a spa treatment, or somebody else buys you a spa treatment, don't forget, even as you're enjoying that, don't forget to offer to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, to the great Bodhisattvas. Don't say, oh, this is not allowed. Again, I think here is kind of teaching us, because sometimes, if we go to the spa, I don't know about you guys, but probably we feel like, oh, let's not think about Buddhists, let's not think about Bodhisattvas, because this is so indulgent. So then we bracket aside our life as if, oh, Dharma here, then over here, with a little bit of guilt, a little bit of repression, we go to the spa. If you don't think you should go to the spa, don't go to the spa. If you go to the spa, don't check Buddha and Bodhisattvas at the door, like your clothing. They're not like clothing and shoes you check at the door when you enter the spa. Yeah. If your relationship to the objects of refuge is like that, then it's very superficial. Yeah. So here, if you find yourself in a spa, get over it now. So you enjoy this, but you think this true enjoyment is the bathing of bodies whose resident is bodhicitta. Why Buddhas and Bodhisattvas' bodies here is treated with such, you can even say, sensual, such sensual images. It's talking about, I'm rubbing their body with perfume and towels, Normally you don't find it in Buddhist texts like this. But the emphasis here is because they are embodiments of bodhicitta. So as you enjoy your spa, I would suggest you think, how much bodhicitta do I have? If I can magnify my bodhicitta, then in the spa I can make an offering to Buddhas and Bodhisattvas.
所以下次当我们去温泉浴的时候，不要忘记，就是做对诸佛菩萨的供养。其实这边的一个教义是关于什么？就是说，很多时候我们可能会把我们的生活就是分成两半，然后佛法是佛法，然后生活是生活。然后当我们去到这温泉浴的时候，就觉得哦，这个就是沉溺在欲念当中的一个行为，然后就好像和修行没有任何的关系。但是不要这样把自己的生活和佛法区分开来，而是能够就是说，当我们看这些经文的时候，其实我们可以看到，就是它非常的清楚的陈述我们是怎么去对待我们这一个感官欲望的这个身体，因为这个身体本身就是菩提心的一个容器，是一个显现。那当我们在享受着我们的温泉浴的时候，其实我们可以思考，我们到底具备多大的菩提心，然后我们就以那样的一个虔诚的心来供养。
By the way, McDonald's large latte, it's not bad. Much better than Starbucks. And much cheaper. Only $3.25 for a large latte. A large latte in Starbucks, it's going to cost me $6. So very good that the Starbucks was closed. It's actually not bad. No need to translate nonsense like that. Translation, not bad, this latte. So next time, meaning you have a McDonald's and you have Starbucks, just leave Starbucks alone. Cheaper and better, not so bitter. I've heard that Starbucks deliberately make their coffee bitter because they make their most money not in their plain coffee drinks. They make their most money in their sugared, all kinds of sugar flavors. And so in order for their coffee to still have taste after they put half a pound of sugar, in a cup like this, they have to like even burn their coffee so that you can still taste some coffee. So that much sugar is the #1 killer in the world. Anyway, verses 14 to 19 is the offering of pleasant substances. But before that, so there is the mention, just in case people who don't know these names, at the end of 13, I will grace sublime Samantabhadra, Manjughosha, and Lokeshwara. So these are the three of a group of what's known as the 8 Mahasattvas, the 8 great Bodhisattvas. 3 of them are named here, but here it's talking about the 8 because it says and their kin and the rest in their group. Anyway, Samantabhadra, the Bodhisattva, known for his great vows, great aspirations, great practices. Manjughosha is Manjushri, known for his great wisdom. Lokeshwara is Avalokiteshvara, known for his great compassion.
在第13季的尾端，我们会看到普贤尊、文殊和观自在这3尊是8大菩萨的中的3位。然后普贤菩萨基本上是以大愿、大行著称的，而文殊菩萨则是以他的智慧著称，然后观自在菩萨则是以慈悲著称的。
So here, you can say Samantabhadra is about great vows, great aspirations, and great practices. And then Manjughosha, great wisdom, Lokeshwara, great compassion. In the Chinese East Asia tradition, often Kshitigarbha is also identified. And this group of 4, Kshitigarbha is said to be great vows, and Samantabhadra is great carrying out of the vows. So the Yuan and Xing in Chinese, Heng, is divided kind of into these 2 bodhisattvas, the vow, the Yuan, and then the Xing, the Heng, is the carrying out of the practices. So in East Asian Buddhism, China, Korea, Japan, you have the 4 great bodhisattvas, 3 of these plus Kshitigarbha.
在中国的就是在东南亚的汉传传统里头，是以4大菩萨就著称。然后这4大菩萨除了刚才所提的3个，还包括地藏王菩萨。那地藏王菩萨是以大愿闻名，然后相对于地藏王菩萨的话，则是普贤菩萨。普贤菩萨则是以就是实践大愿的大行闻名的。
So together we're going to read 14 to 19, which is the continuing in offering this spa. 14 is where it says, I anoint, I rub this fragrance and this sandalwood and things like that. And with the sumptuous fragrance which pervades 1,000 million worlds, I will anoint the bodies of the mighty sages, gleaming bright like burnished gold, refined and cleansed. I place before the mighty sages perfect objects of my worship, glorious flowers like lotus and mandarava, the utpala and other fragrant blossoms, worked and twined in lovely scented garlands. I will offer swelling clouds of frankincense, whose ambient perfume ravishes the mind, and various foods and every kind of drink, all delicacies worthy of the gods. I will offer precious lamps arranged in rows on lotuses of gold, a carpet of sweet flowers scattering upon the level, incense-sprinkled ground. To those whose very nature is compassion, I will give vast palaces resounding with fair praise, all decked with precious pearls and beauteous pendant gems, gleaming jewels that deck the amplitude of space. Fair and precious parasols adorned with golden shafts, all bordered round with hem of precious jewels, upright, well proportioned, pleasing to the eye. Again, all this I give to all the Buddhists. So you see, all this beautiful description. So to whatever degree, I think like the inner aspect of this, to me, what it's saying is like we don't need to kind of like rigidly, tightly, stay away from beautiful things, good things, and think, oh, the best way to practice Dharma is this way. Here it's saying, you work on bodhicitta. The more you embody bodhicitta, the more you can enjoy these beautiful, wonderful things without causing suffering. Because what causes suffering is grasping. It's not things themselves. Now, I think we frequently say that, but then, then we get trapped again, we get hooked again. So again, don't just say, oh, it's not things that causes suffering, it's our grasping, and then we don't work on that grasping part. But it is true nonetheless. Naropa says, like in my way of practicing, I recognize that things don't bind. It's our fixation on things that bind, tie us up tightly. So then Naropa says, give up this grasping.
那在这边就是说，我们其实不需要非常的呆板的去远离一切美好的事物。我们这边他也提到的就是说，我们要努力的怎么好好的修习菩提心。当我们越能够去展现菩提心的时候，我们越能够没有远离痛苦的享受一切美好的事物。因为真正导致痛苦是因为执着，而不是事物本身。那不是说我们就不要以这样为一个借口，然后我们就不去努力的去调服我们的贪执，我们的执着。那在马尔巴大师他就提到说，其实事物它是不会困扰束缚我们，是我们自己的执着导致我们被束缚而已。所以放下。
So in terms of like the making of offerings, whatever we can prepare. If you maintain a personal shrine, an altar in your home, take care, to make offerings that are delightful to the senses. There's no point in having a shrine and an altar in your home if you don't, care about it, Then because Buddhas and Bodhisattvas don't need you to have statues of them in your house. They're not ghosts. meaning like if you don't offer them things, they will go hungry, you know. They're not like spiritual pets. They don't need that. But if we're going to maintain a practice shrine, a practice altar, take care to make it beautiful offerings, clean offerings, because that brightens our mind. That reminds us of the objects of refuge.
关于就是供养这一件事情，就是我们能够准备什么，我们就提供什么样的一个供养物。那如果在家里有佛座的话，那我们就用心的去照顾这个佛座。其实诸佛菩萨并不需要我们去做任何的供养，而我们在进行这样的一个供养，其实是对于我们自己的一个修持。当我们准备非常美好的供养物的时候，其实它会让我们的心变得非常的明亮，它是一种修持。
Verses 20 to 23, it's here, these verses are, you can say, making offerings by way of aspiration. So what that means is that, you know, beyond the things that we can gather together, beyond the things that we have seen, you know, recently, we can also expand it so that, you know, to greater things that we have not experienced yet, but we can sort of think about, and we, by our aspiration, we make them into offerings. And so this is the verses 20 to 23.
那第20到23基本上是另外一层的供养物，然后这个是超越我们能够聚集我们所看到的，而是透过我们的愿，然后把我们所尚未经验到的一切，然后用它把它们变成供养。
So we'll read these four together. May a host of other offerings and clouds of ravishing sweet melody that solaces the pain of living beings arise and constantly abide. May rains of flowers and every precious gem fall down in an unceasing stream upon the jewels of sacred Dharma, images and all supports for offering. Just as Manjughosha and the like made offering to all the conquerors, I do likewise to all the Buddhas, our protectors, and to all their Bodhisattva children. To these vast ocean of good qualities I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly before them. And so here you see the word may, that indicates like it's the aspiration. So using your power of your bigness of your heart, in that sense, aspiration, using the bigness of your heart, you magnify these offerings. Then you offer your mind. Then the last verse here, to these vast oceans of good qualities I offer praise, a sea of airs and harmonies, music. May clouds of tuneful eulogy ascend unceasingly. Verse 23, that's the offering of speech, verbal offering. So mental offering, verbal offering, physical offerings, all covered up till this point.
然后在这边我们可以看到，就是说这个是透过我们的愿心，我们心的广阔，然后来扩展我们所能够思考到、所能够想象得到的这样的一些供养物。那所以是在第22和23偈里头，其实就会譬如说，就以海潮音，然后赞佛功德海这样，这个是关于语的供养。所以除了到目前为止所有的 就是身语意三个层面的供养都已经涵盖。
Manjushri's name, the Bodhisattva of wisdom, is also Manjughosha. Manjughosha is literally means sweet voice. Manjughosha, sweet voice.
那你就文殊菩萨，它就是智慧的象征。它另外一个名称也是叫曼珠国沙。然后其实它的意思就是说，就是美妙的声音。
So his words are sweet, pleasant.
因为它的声音非常的美。
But he also carries a flaming sword, okay?
他也持着一个就是燃火的剑。
If the sweet voice doesn't work, then flaming sword is already raised.
那如果就是美妙的声音没有办法发挥它的作用的话，那么那个燃火的剑就会出来发挥它的作用。
24 and 25, he returns to paying homage. So the order is a little bit different from the usual sevenfold, but again, we don't need to be so rigid about this. But 24 and 25 is back to the first of the seven elements, paying homage, making offerings. So 24 and 25, paying homage again.
那第24和25集是关于礼敬，所以刚才已经谈了就是礼敬，然后供养，然后现在第24、25集又回到来礼敬。
So together, let's say 24 and 25, the Buddhas of the past, the present, and all future time, and to the Dharma and sublime assembly, with bodies many as the grains of dust upon the earth, I will prostrate and bow. To shrines and all supports of Bodhichitta, I bow down. To abbots who transmit the vows, to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of Dharma. So in this section, again, of course, the Buddha Dharma Sangha is identified, is highlighted. Then all shrines and all supports. And supports is talking about like Buddha images, paintings, anything that represents the three jewels, you bow down to.
这边有提到佛法僧，还有一切就是象征佛法僧的物品。然后我们以虔诚的心礼敬。
Also Dharma texts, those are also supports.
像就是经典，那也是佛法的一个象征。
So we should not treat these objects, like they are decorations.
我们不要就是把这一些视为是一个装饰品。
To abbots who transmit the vows, those who give vows, and to every learned master, and to all sublime practitioners of the Dharma, he says, I now pay homage to.
最后我们就是礼敬戒圣者，然后方正阿神，就对所有的这一些修行人，我们都就是恭敬的礼敬。
26 is a verse on taking refuge.
第26节是关于皈依。
So let's read this together. Until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas. Also, I take refuge in the Dharma,
正法
and in
宝，
all the
菩
host
萨
of
诸圣众。
Bodhisattvas. So here often in the commentary, the commentators take the opportunity to explain the levels of taking refuge. So this verse here is said to be the Mahayana level of taking refuge. So then what is implied here is there is the Hinayana level and the Mahayana level.
在注释里头，一般上你就会善用这一个机会来解释皈依有不同的层次。那这一句这个偈颂是关于大圣层次的一个皈依，然后它也隐含了就是小圣的皈依。
First of all, the definition of terms. I want to emphasize that when Hinayana and Mahayana are used in this context, and generally when I use those terms, Hinayana and Mahayana, we are referring to the natural levels, progression of one's path, beginning first with Hinayana, meaning focusing on the small. What is the small? The small is the individual. First focusing on the small, first focusing on the individual, first focusing on the limited, which is focusing on oneself. Then from there it matures and grows into Mahayana, which is focusing on others. So here when we say Hinayana and Mahayana, it's nothing to do with sectarian labels, nothing to do with this Buddhist tradition in this country or that Buddhist tradition in that country. We're not using the terms in this way. This is important to remember.
但是这边提到的大圣和小圣，指的并不是说这一个国家就是所维持的一个佛教传统，或者是那个国家所维持的一个佛教传统，而是关于在整个修行次第上面，那小圣着重它的定义是说着重在小的个人的有限的自己的修行层面，而慢慢的当它越来越成熟，然后就发展成大圣。而大圣的层面就是着重到他人身上，这个和就是那个并不是以界限来区分，而是以整个修行次第来区分的。
Whether Hinayana or Mahayana, the same Buddha taught it.
无论是小圣还是大圣，都是同一尊佛所教的。
Fundamentally, what was taught, no different.
然后根本所教法并没有任何的不同。
The difference is more on the level of the one practicing these teachings. And basically, Buddha gave Dharma teachings, period. But based on our level of maturing, then we can differentiate between, are we primarily focusing on the individual, on ourselves, or have we now matured to the level of focusing on others?
那基本上就是这两者并没有任何区别，唯一的区别其实是针对修持的人，就是这个手画机，它的层次是在哪？佛陀是依据手画机的条件，依据手画机的资粮来区分不同样的教法。然后这一个层面上，我们要了解到我们现在自己的层次是着重在自己的修持上面，还是已经成熟到可以去，就是着重在他人身上。
In fact, Gilbert Rinpoche, Jigten Sungren, again in his very amazing way of explaining this, generally you can say what he says is the Dharma itself doesn't have lesser, greater. This Dharma itself doesn't have those. Everything Buddha taught was great because everything he taught us is geared towards freedom from confusion.
就是吉田松公护主在他的解释里面就说，其实佛法本身并没有所谓的大或小的区别，所有佛陀所教的都是非常的宏大，非常的美妙，都是引导我们怎么去离苦得乐。
But how individuals understand and digest the teaching, how individuals practice the teachings given, there is when you can say, this is Hinayana, this is Mahayana, this is in-betweeniana.
然后是众生怎么去理解、怎么消化、怎么修习佛陀的教法，才是在这个层次上，我们区分为所谓的小乘，所谓的大乘。
So this way of understanding, I think, is very helpful because we when we understand it in this way, we're not going to not so likely running around looking for, where is there a greater teaching that I can receive? Oh, where is there a more amazing teaching that I can receive? Oh, where is it a more powerful practice that I can get? How many of us have spent how much of our time running after, chasing after things like this, thinking that, a more powerful method is yet to be discovered. A more powerful teaching is yet to be found. We have wasted so much time running around, hoping to run into something like this. But the way Kyoba Rinpoche talks about what makes something lesser, what makes something greater, is not out there. It's how we mature.
这样的一个理解其实是非常有帮助，因为当我们了解到说，就是当我们了解了之后，我们就不会浪费时间到处的去奔走，然后去寻找哪里可以找到更好的上师、更美妙的方法，或者是更有益的一个教授，我们不会这样浪费时间。而吉田颂公这样护主的方法，其实是告诉我们，真正的大或者是小不在外头，而是在于我们自己的条件，我们到底是成熟到哪一个层次。
So every 20 minutes or so, I have to get up and walk around while the translation is going on. Otherwise, the sensor light is going to turn off when there's no movement. This hotel is very environmentally conscious.
然后李博士就开玩笑说，他每20分钟就要起来动一动，因为这个旅馆它的那个就是就侦测移动的那个器皿非常的敏感，所以他需要让它侦测到有移动。
So here, let's look at the verse 26, which is said to be the Mahayana level of refuge. So it says, until the essence of enlightenment is reached, I go for refuge to the Buddhas, I take refuge in the Dharma, and in all the host of Bodhisattvas.
那第26句，乃至菩提大不应诸佛
it means
正法菩萨
on the Mahayana level of taking refuge, you know that you are taking refuge on the Mahayana level, on the greater vehicle level, when you can entertain the idea, and you are committed to the idea that I will take refuge from lifetime to lifetime to lifetime until I myself become the three jewels, become refuge.
在大圣的层面皈依，在这个层面皈依的话，是当我们能够承诺去皈依，去从一辈子到另外一辈子，不断的皈依，直至我们自己成为三宝的一份子。
Now, most of us have recited something like this in our Dharma practice, in our Dharma texts.
然后我们大部分人其实都持诵过这样的一个经文，这样的偈颂。
But have we really taken refuge in the Mahayana way?
然后我们自己扪心自问，我们真的是这样皈依的吗？是以大圣的一个角度来皈依吗？
I cannot speak for you, but speaking for myself, I can say probably not.
然后我不能够代表你说些什么，但是如果从我自己的角度来看的话，可能并没有。
Because forget about, actually I will take refuge until I become the refuge, objects of refuge for others. Because for the most part, I will only take refuge when I remember to take refuge. And even when I remember to take refuge, I'm just saying the words.
不要谈就是生生世世我们为了他人而求皈依，而很多时候我们的皈依可能就是都是在我记得的时候我才皈依。
And I'm also, and even on a good day, when I am taking refuge, it's often just to take refuge for my own benefit. Because I fear the suffering of samsara. And it's like, I should turn to Buddha Dharma Sangha.
然后在比较好的时候，然后当我在皈依的时候，可能很多时候都是基于对痛苦的恐惧，所以想到皈依三宝。都是为了自己的利益。
So in a way, you could say there is the pre-yana way of taking refuge, there is the Hinayana way of taking refuge, and there is the Mahayana level of taking refuge.
所以我们可以说，其实，在小圣和大圣之前，还有一个圣的前行。
The pre-yana way of taking refuge is like, I think I might have COVID. Buddhang Sharanam Gacchami, Dharmam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangham Sharanam Gacchami, please help me.
然后所谓的就是圣的前行的皈依，就是说，我担心我可能会得到就是新冠肺炎，所以就是去皈依皈依佛、皈依法、皈依僧，请帮助我。
Samsara not cooperating with you, then you think of Buddha Dharma Sangha, because maybe, you have heard about how powerful Buddha Dharma Sangha is. Maybe, in any case, you think, it doesn't cost that much or anything at all to just say, I take refuge in Buddha, I take refuge in Dharma, I take refuge in Sangha. Maybe, things will change for the better. Maybe samsara will stink less if I do that. That's the pre-yana taking refuge.
然后当就是整个轮回和我就不是那么的和谐，不是那么的，就是处的不是那么好的时候，我才会想到佛，想到法，想到僧。 可能当我皈依佛、皈依法的一生的时候，那整个轮回的状况就可能会比较好，而且其实也不需要任何的代价，当我就是去皈依佛法生。
This kind of taking a refuge is like rearranging, the deck furniture on the Titanic, that famous Titanic that went down the ocean. You're just rearranging the furniture there to make things look better. It's going down,
这一个层面的皈依，其实就很像在海丹尼号的那艘大轮船里头，然后我们就不断的在调整那个它的那个东西。其实无论我们怎么调整，它都是一样会沉沦的。
The limited focus on the individual level of taking refuge is, instead of rearranging the furniture on the Titanic, you start looking for a lifeboat to get on. Because this is going down,
那如果我们知道就如果我们是在这一艘船上，我们知道它在沉沦的话，那与其不断的不断的调整这个东西，那我们更应该做的是去找的救生圈或者是救生艇。
The Mahayana level of taking refuge is ensuring, preparing, making sure that everybody have access to this lifeboat, and everybody on this Titanic being able to get on the lifeboat, and together everybody safely depart from the sinking
刚刚的那个层面是属于就是小乘的层面。那如果是大乘层面的一个皈依，基本上就是我们找到了那个救生艇，然后确保所有的人都能够登上那个救生艇。
I had to turn off the sound because the AC kicked on. I said, okay, now let's mess with the temperature. So whether it's Priyana, Hinayana, Mahayana refuge depends on us. No shame, if it is still at Hinayana mostly, or even if it is mostly at Priyana. No shame. This is not to call you out and shame you. No, but rather for you to understand where you are and where you need to get to.
无论是就是圣的前行，或者是小圣还是大圣，是都看我们自己。然后其实并不需要感到就羞耻。那哪怕我们可能是处于就是圣前行，或者是小圣。反而是这样可以让我们看清楚我们到底处于怎么样的一个状态，而我们要往的是怎么样的方向。
And then for the rest of this chapter, from verse 27 to 65, it's the actual confession part.
然后接下来是
Mondro as a preliminary to receiving, to generating Bodhicitta.
前面的是前行，然后接下来从第27季到第65季是关于忏悔的内容。
So let's together read from 27 to 65. Yeah? It's quite a few pages, but we'll read together.
27到
To the perfect Buddhas and to Bodhisattvas in all directions where they may reside, to them who are the sovereigns of great mercy, I press my palms together, praying thus in this and all my other lives, while turning in the round without beginning. Blindly I have brought forth evil and incited others to commit the same. Deceived and overmastered by my ignorance, I have taken pleasure in such a sin. And seeing how the blame of it, O great protectors, I confess it earnestly. Whatever I have done against the triple gem, against my parents, teachers, and the rest, through force of my defilements in my body, speech, and mind, all the evil I, a sinner, have committed, all the wicked deeds that cling to me, the frightful things that I have contrived, I openly declare to you, the teachers of the world. It may be that my death will come to me before my evil has been cleansed. How then can I be freed from it? I pray you, quickly grant me your protection. We cannot trust the wanting Lord of death. The task complete or still to do, he will not wait. In health or sickness, therefore, none of us can trust our fleeting momentary lives. And we must pass away, forsaking all. But I, devoid of understanding, have for the sake of friend and foe alike provoked and brought about so many wrongs. But all my foes will cease to be, and all my friends will cease to be, and I will also cease to be, and likewise everything will cease to be. All that I possess and use is like the fleeting vision of a dream. It fades into the realms of memory, and fading will be seen no more. And even in the brief course of this present life, so many friends and foes have passed away, because of whom the evils I have done still lie unbearable before me. The thought came never to my mind that I too am a brief and passing thing. And so, through hatred, lust, and ignorance, I have committed many sins. Never halting night or day, my life drains constantly away, and from no other source does increase come. How can there not be death for such as me? There I'll be prostrate upon my bed, and all around my family and friends. But I alone shall be the one to feel the cutting of the thread of life. And when the heralds of the deadly king have gripped me, what help to me will be my friends and kin? For then life's virtue is my one defense, and this, alas, is what I shrugged away. O protectors, I, so little heeding, hardly guess at horror such as this, and for this brief transient existence I have done so many evil things. The day they take him to the scaffold, where they will tear off his limbs, a man is changed, transfigured by his fear. His mouth is dry, his eyes start from his brow. No need to say how stricken I shall be. When overcome and sick with dreadful fear, I am seized by forms so horrible to see, the frightful servants of the Lord of Death. Who can give me safe protection from this horror, from this frightful dread? Then I'll search the four directions, seeking help with panic-stricken eyes. But in those four directions no protection shall I find, and I shall sink into despairing woe. No refuge will there be for me at such a time. What shall I do? Thus, from this day forward, I take refuge in the Buddhas, guardians of beings, who labor to protect all wanderers, those mighty ones who scatter every fear. And in the Dharma they have realized in their hearts, which drives away the terrors of samsara, and in all the host of Bodhisattvas, likewise I will perfectly take refuge. Gripped by dread, beside myself with anguish, to Samantabhadra I will give myself. My body I myself will give to Manjughosha, gentle and melodious. To him whose deeds of mercy never fail, my Lord Avalokita, I cry out from depths of misery. Protect me now, an evildoer. Now to the noble one, Akashagarbha, and to Kshitigarbha, from my heart I call, to all protectors, great compassionate, I cry to them in search of refuge. To Vajrapani I shall fly, for at the sight of him all vengeful things like Yama's host escape in terror to the four directions. Formerly your words I have transgressed, but having seen these terrors all around, I come to you for refuge, praying, swiftly drive away my fear. For if alarmed by common ailments, I must implement the doctor's words. What need to speak of when I'm constantly brought low by ills like lust and faults 100-fold? And if by one of these alone the dwellers in the world are all thrown down, and if no other remedy exists, no other healing elsewhere to be found, then words of the all-knowing doctor, which uproot our every ill, the thought to turn on him deaf ears is abject and contemptible stupidity. Along a small and ordinary cliff, if I must pick my way with special care, what need to speak of that long-lasting chasm, plunging to the depths 1,000 leagues? Today at least I shall not die. So rash to allow myself with words like these, my dissolution and my hour of death will come to me. Of this there is no doubt. Who can give me fearlessness? What sure escape is there from this? It is certain that I'm going to die. So how can I relax my mind at ease? Of life's experience, all seasons past, what's left to me, what now remains? By clinging to what now is here no more, my teacher's precepts I have disobeyed. And when this life is left behind, and with it all my kith and kin, I must set out on strange paths all alone. Why make so much of all of my friends and foes? How instead can I make sure to rid myself of evil, only cause of sorrow? This should be my one concern, my only thought both night and day. The wrongs that I have done through ignorance, stupidity, all actions evil by their nature, and transgressions of the precepts, fearing all the pains to come, I join my palms and ceaselessly prostrate, and everything I will confess directly in the sight of my protectors. I pray you, guides and guardians of the world, to take me as I am, a sinful man, and all these actions, evil as they are, I promise I will never do again. So, in these verses, these stanzas, Shantideva basically presents what is known as the four powers that are necessary for Buddhist kind of confession to be effective.
在这一席偈颂里面，吉天菩萨他所展示的是佛教的一个忏悔的法门，就是四力法门。
84,000. This project to translate the Tibetan Buddhist canon into English has translated the basic sutra where the Buddha taught this, translated into English. It's called the Sutra of the Four Factors, I think. There, the word power isn't used in the sutra, but in the sutra, the Buddha very clearly, succinctly taught what here we call the four powers.
在就是有一个84000的那个网页上面，就是把西藏大藏经翻译成英语的一个计划，然后里面就有把一部经，就是四音经，然后把它翻译出来，然后在里头就是佛陀非常清楚的就陈述这四力。
So the first is the power of regret. The second is the power of, I call it refuge, but more literally the power of support, or the power of reliance. Then the third is the power of remedy, and the fourth is the power of resolve.
然后这4个分别是：第一个是忏悔，第二个是皈依，第三个是对治，第四个是决意、决心。
So at least in English, easy to remember, these 4 R's.
这在英文其实是
regret,
4个 R，
reliance, or refuge, remedy, and resolve.
在英文它是由4个 R 所组成的。
The first and the fourth pertains to past and future.
第一和第4是关于过去和未来。
Regret has to do with what has already occurred. Actions, unskillful actions that has already been done, cannot be undone now. What to do? With regards to that, we should be regretful. It's not regret itself as an emotion that is encouraged. As we shall see, what is going on with regret? So sometimes I think we like get stuck, and it's easy to get stuck in regret because it's a very sticky emotion, It's not so much regret itself that is being encouraged. It is that in the arising of regret, we see more clearly the causes and conditions involved in having created suffering, so that we see clearly. So the first one pertains to things that have already occurred, things that we have already done.
首先第一个是关于我们已经做过的事情，已经发生的事情，那我们去忏悔。这个忏悔不是一个单纯的情绪的一个表现，而是因为关于到忏悔，很多时候我们很容易卡在里头，然后因为它就非常的黏腻，然后其实是当就是后悔的这样的一个情绪升起的时候，我们可以清楚看到造成苦的因和缘是什么。
The fourth power, the power of resolve, has to do with future, going forward.
然后第4个决议就是和未来有关系。
So with regret arising, which then allows us to see more clearly the unskillful, the misdeeds that have been created, the situations that I either directly or indirectly contributed to, that then brought about these undesirable results. Having seen clearly how it is, then you resolve that going forward, I will not contribute directly or indirectly anymore to these causes of suffering. So that's the resolve, which pertains to going forward into the future.
当就是后悔这样的一个情绪升起的时候，我们清楚看到，就是过往的所造作的诸多不善巧，无论是直接还是间接的，我们清清楚楚的看到之后，我们升起一个决定，一个确意，就是往后我不再投入这样的苦因，这样造作苦的缘。
Then the other two, right, the power of refuge, of reliance, and the power remedy is what we do now.
然后中间的两个就是皈依还有对治，是我们现在要做的。
So in this way, past, present, future.
就是这样的方式，所以它就涵盖了过去、现在和未来。
So just to give you like the outline, 28 to 46 is said to be the power of regret. 28 to 46.
第28到第46集是关于后悔、忏悔的部分。
47 to 53 is the power of the refuge and support.
然后47到53是皈依。
There, the qualities of Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and under Sangha, in particular, a group of great Bodhisattvas and their powers are mentioned. 47 to 53.
然后在这个皈依的部分，就是会提到佛法僧的功德，还有就是大菩萨的一些功德，然后里面都会提到。
Power of remedy is 54 to, let's see, 54 to 62.
54季到62是关于对治。
To 61, sorry. Yeah, to 61.
不好意思，61。
62 to 65 is the power of resolve.
62到65季是
62 to 65, the power of resolve. So these are the four powers that are covered in Shantideva's way.
释迦文菩萨将会谈论到的是四力忏悔。
So now let's see if there are any questions or comments, or you want me to clarify anything or discuss anything, because we should not start the four powers. We don't have that much time. But let's see if there's any questions or comments.
请问大家有没有什么问题想要提出来，或者是大家有什么样的一个分享？可以趁这个时间来请教李博士，有吗？由于我们的时间现在剩下不多，所以我们就暂时开始四力忏悔。
I have a question, of course.
Yes, good.
In thinking about attachment and to, lovely things we enjoy, and offering that, it occurs to me that we can get very attached to ideas like doing everything we can to do our part to help with climate change.
Yes.
Pollinator gardens, and we can get all involved and very adamant in our need to make our gardens better, drive Priuses, do all these things. Is it appropriate to offer those things in an effort to cleanse them?
Yes, absolutely. Especially Americans.
Yeah, I mean, we get so...
American do-gooders.
Yeah, in many different aspects of problems that we see.
Yeah.
So it's kind of the same thing, but we're asking
Yes.
to purify as opposed to stay fixated.
Yeah.
Basically, is
Go back to very beginning. I said, if we want to use simple words to talk about bodhicitta, it's caring without grasping. It's not something that you figure out right at the beginning. It's a process of figuring out how to balance these two. The whole path consists of figuring out how these two can be achieved so that they become non-dual. In some other contexts, I've said, actually, when you look at wisdom, no-brainer. When you look at compassion, loving kindness, you will be heartless not to agree with that. So when these two are separated, duh. So what is the path about? The path is about integrating these two. That's how I feel. From the beginning to the end is integrating these two. And at the beginning, they're separate. Then the whole path consists of how to integrate these two. And then when you are Buddha, these two truly are realized as inseparable and non-dual.
Thank you.
Dr. Lai?
Hold on. I think they need to translate.
现在有个问题就是说，与其就是执着，就是抓取这些美好的事物，然后我们去做，那不如就是我们用心的，就是可以贡献在帮助就是整个地球暖化啊，然后让去耕耘我们的园林、我们的花园，然后让整个世界变得更美好。那以这样的方式来供养，那不是更有意义吗？然后黎博士说，确实没有错。那就像课程一开始的时候，我们就有提到说，就菩提心简单来说就是不执着的一种关怀。而整个修道，其实我们就是不断的怎么结合慈悲和智慧。然后在一开始，在修道的起初，可能这慈悲和智慧是分开的，但是我们在整个过程里面不断的结合这两者，然后当我们成就无上佛果位的时候，这两者就变成不二了。
There's a question Laura Herman says, could you repeat? We lost the last part. I am far from having powers of all-knowingness. So you have to tell me what was the last thing you heard so that I know which part you lost. And I have to warn you, even when you tell me which part you have lost, not necessarily I even remember what I just said, but I'll try my best. So Laura, if you can tell me what was the last thing you heard, then I will try to remember what I said from that point on. Laura, are you there? Laura once, Laura twice, Laura 3 times.
It was
oh, good.
After you said you were talking about, yes, especially Americans, and the Judy's question about getting attached to certain outcomes. Your volume has gone down. I have my volume all the way up. Maybe it's on my end. Does anybody else have a problem hearing Dr. Lai? That's my question.
Yeah, I think it's on your end. But anyway, even if it is on your end, I can repeat that. So I said, therefore, the main point I said is go back to At the beginning of this teaching today, I said, in simple words, what we say Bodhicitta is, just to really simplify, but getting to the heart of it, is caring without grasping. So that is the whole path. Then in another context, we can say, we often hear about how wisdom and compassion inseparable. We repeat that a lot, but often we don't really get, like, what does that mean to me? What it means is, like, to me, I feel that the whole path, the path from confusion to clarity, from sentient being to Buddha, it's how to integrate these two sides. So it's not that you start off already having these two as non-dual. When you start off, these two are quite separate. Because any reasonable person, when you listen to the wisdom teachings, you will go, yeah, of course that makes sense. And then when you listen to the teachings about love and compassion, you're like, oh yes, of course, it feels so good. The trick is how to integrate these two. And that is essentially what the path consists of. So no need to translate because you already translated. So now, Lucrezia, you had a question, Lucrezia?
Yes, thank you. In previous class, I remember that you mentioned how do we know if we are taking refuge the correct way? Oh, I just make a brief comment, I guess, but you said that I understood that you said that things begin to happen, things begin to work out for us. So I'm not clear if I understood well, because so that's, if you could explain a little bit more of how do we know we're taking refuge correctly and the right way, let's say.
There's no right, wrong way per se, but in my explanation today on pre-yana refuge, Hinayana refuge, Mahayana refuge, I think that's, kind of seeing, where am I? Not where am I at this point in my practice, more like where am I this moment? Maybe this moment, not even pre-yana refuge. You're completely not even thinking of refuge. You think everything is fine. Then you know, oh, okay, is everything fine? No, this is the Titanic. It's going to go down, Do I know where the lifeboat is? Am I still spending time rearranging the furniture on the Titanic? Rather than let's get close to the lifeboat, because when it goes down, I need to. So at the very least, that kind of relationship with refuge needs to be there.
这个问题基本上是说，我们怎么知道我们是正确的在皈依？然后
Enjoy New Year.
就像今天提到的，当我们在皈依的时候，我们看我们当下的一个状态。如果我们当下可能就是觉得一切都觉得都是很好的，那我们可能根本连在行前的这个层次都不是。实际上就是我们就像在那个泰达尼号沉沦的泰达尼号中，然后我们到底有没有察觉我们的救生艇在什么样的地方，还是我们在花着很多的时间不断的在就是重整就是船上的那个家私，而不是去寻找出路。
Yes. Yeah. That is the topic to be covered next. Haha, easy answer. Okay, actually, hold on. Let me answer another question in English. Then both of you can translate that. Then we go to. So there's a question here. If a person adopts vegetarian diet due to compassion for other beings, and practice celibacy to attain more equanimity, will his or her spiritual path be elevated and move faster towards bodhicitta? Yes, of course. If we practice, a compassionate diet due to compassion, if we practice, celibacy due to understanding how our mind will be more, less up and down, then of course, now merely abstaining from sexual activity and becoming a vegetarian because you think, makes you more pure, better than other people, that doesn't help in terms of bodhicitta. But if we do it with understanding, with the bodhicitta as motivation, then yes, absolutely.
那这边有一个问题，就是说，那如果某人他就是持素啊，因为慈悲心而为了他人慈悲他人而持素，或者是为了能够证得更多的平等而修持就是禁欲的话，那他的整个修行道是不是能够更快的往就是菩提道的方向迈进？然后李博士的答案是说，确实，如果我们是基于慈悲而就是受持，就是持素，或者是我们充分的了解到，就是我们的心会减少更多的起伏，所以我们来修持禁欲的话，那确实就是有很大的帮助。但是纯粹只是禁欲
myself, I would say,
为了
you have to
让自己变得
choose the battles
对
that you can win.
你是没有任何帮助。
So that in the end, you can win the whole war, so to say. If you try to go to battle in areas that you have very, little confidence in winning, it might completely derail your confidence, that then you will lose the whole war. Claudia, go ahead. So practice well, practice diligently. When you become Buddha, you tell me. I have no idea how Buddhas can enjoy this either. Because I'm not Buddha yet. But the important points, your question tells me you already know, as in important point for now. As to what Buddhas enjoy or don't enjoy, you know, beyond my pay grade, as they say.
不好意思，这个问题我们就是在中文的这个翻译室里头是听不到，所以我不太确定问题是什么。
One footnote is that, there are lots of explanations that Buddhists in the past, Buddhist philosophy, Buddhist logic has tried to answer your question. Actually, your question is not so unusual. And if we have all the time in the world, you know, I will try to explain the theory, the philosophy, this and that. But these days, I just feel like, you know, like they say, you know, TMI, too much information. That doesn't really help us in terms of our practice. We are addicted. I am addicted to theories, to ideas, you know. Not very helpful for practice. But the question is definitely, you know, valid. And for centuries, people have asked, and then for centuries, people have tried to explain also, you know. But I think best thing is we take the parts that we can put into practice now. We diligently practice. Then when we arrive there, then we will know. What do you think you should share with the Chinese? Some of these are important things also. Sorry, I'm making you work.
Can you hear me, Dr. Lai?
Yes.
I cannot hear the question, so I don't know how to translate.
Okay.
Hi.
It's okay. Everything is good.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, good. That's good to know, because then next time I will repeat the question.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, next, Rene?
Hi, Dr. Lai. So I have I like to ask a clarification about the offerings at the beginning of the chapter.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems like it's teaching us to grasp and let go, but specifically of things that in particular do not hurt us or do not hurt others, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think other type of attachments are not we shouldn't mix it with how we work with other kind of attachments, right? Like things we are attached to and are not so harmless, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes. So the question, y'all can hear the questions, right? Wei Ting and Claudia? Yeah. So basically here, right? Yes, of course, you know. You look at what Shantideva talks about. He's not talking about, you know, the pleasures of gambling, the pleasures of snorting heroin, oh, visualize that and offer them, He's not talking about things like that, That's clearly harmful, No. He's talking about more innocent, so to say, kinds of, pleasure. Yes, yeah. With regards to those types of attachment, you have to handle those differently,
Sorry, Dr. Lai, what is
Yes.
the question?
Huh?
What is the question?
A question is, oh, you cannot hear earlier?
I cannot catch it clearly.
The question is basically, what about the types of attachments that is like harmful, should you like, like think of, grasping them, and then offering them? That's when I say, if you have like attachment to stealing, attachment to like ruining other people's families by having affairs with their husbands or wives, no. Shantideva is not saying, oh, grasp that, Jigden Sumgun is not saying, oh, grasp that and then offer that, We're talking about more innocent types of attachment.
然后刚刚有一个问题就提到说，那就是先前的整个讨论会提到我们要怎么去供养，那是不是对于一些类型的供养，比如说会造成他人伤害的供养，那我们也要去汲取那样的一种娱乐，那样的快乐来供养呢？那李博士就澄清说，当然，吉天菩萨在这里是谈到的是相对比较纯粹的一种感官的娱乐，而不是会造成他人伤害的娱乐。那像赌博之类的这样的一种快乐是就不会鼓励用这样的一种娱乐来供养。
There is a couple of questions in English in the chat. Let me read and answer them. So one says, how to take care of children without attachment instead of attachment with great bodhicitta. Oh, yeah. So you can translate the question first. How to take care of our children without attachment.
而且有个问题是，我们要怎么样子，就是不执着的照顾我们的孩子，而是以菩提心的角度来照顾孩子。
Oh, so hard, I can only imagine. I don't have children myself. I have 4 godchildren. And every time I think, oh my gosh, these parents are so brave. These parents are so amazing. And I don't have that kind of skill to care for them without attachment, because just being their godfather, I know there's really a lot of attachment. So not easy.
李博士说，确实非常的困难。然后他没有孩子，但是他有4个，就是他的就是就认他为干儿子、干孩子。然后他就觉得这些父母非常非常的伟大，他本身都没有这样的一个能力可以去照顾这些小朋友。而在照顾他们的过程，只是作为一个干爹，他就已经可以看到自己有多么大的一个执着。
Basically, how to? Well, it looks like with the question, it's already clear. You understand the principle. So now what needs to be done is to try, make mistakes, modify, see some mistakes, modify, and then never forget, caring without grasping as the basic principle. And it will take one lifetime, several lifetimes, maybe, to get at the perfect way. So be gentle with yourself. Don't be so harsh on yourself. Understand that this is just the condition that we are in.
然后李博士的回答就是说，其实从问题来看，就了解提问者非常清楚这个原则。那我们应该怎么做呢？就是不断的尝试，然后犯错，然后再调整，再看到问题，然后再调整，然后不要忘记我们要不直取的去关怀。这个过程可能会花费我们一辈子的时间，或者甚至是几辈子的时间。所以就持续的去耕耘，然后要对自己善待自己，不要那么的严格。
There's a question: is the quality of grasping practice letting go of desirous things instead of just offering without so much grasping? Hey Linda, can you ask the question again? Restate that for me. Like you can unmute yourself and maybe easier to just talk it out.
So you have, it's not that you want to develop more grasping before you offer something, right? It's maybe you just notice that you see something beautiful and offer it. I guess the point is not to develop more grasping and then offer, but to see the grasping.
Yeah, sure. So this is more pertains to what Jigden Sungman said, that it is skillful to take in order to offer. I think there he is. Yeah, it's very subtle points being made there. It's not so much that you develop more grasping. I think he's pointing to how even when you think you don't have grasping, it's actually there. So then rather than letting it hide in the shadows, let it out in the open, at least with yourself. And then, so in that way, he does say, go gather. It sounds as if he's saying, develop more grasping. And then, of course, no, he's not saying develop more grasping. I think what he's really pointing to is how, even when we think we don't have that grasping, do nice things, do good things, they're just hiding in the dark. Let them out of the dark. Then offer. Then, in a way, you could say, what otherwise would stay in the dark and later become a big downfall, now you have dealt with it. Yeah.
那这边的问题是说，那所谓的这个直取的特质是，我们是要练习
So is it like homeopathic? Use the
去
medicine.
放下这一些我们所直取的东西，还是我们就是不那么的去直取来供养？基本上是说，那我们因为在刚才的教法里面，在刚才的教授里面，似乎吉田圣宗是在鼓吹我们培养更多的直取，就是我们去累积或者去聚集更多的这一些直取美好的一些经验，然后来供养。但实际上不是。这边的一个教授，他最重要的一个功能是说，可能我们以为我们自己并没有任何的贪执，实际上其实它是非常微细，它只是隐藏起来。那所以这一边是提到，我们与其让它躲在阴暗处，我们不如就让它浮现出来。当它浮现出来，我们将这样的一种贪执转化为供养的时候，其实我们就是已经把它清除了。
Yeah, so today, now we should do the dedication.
扶起来回向。
So excellent and precious Bodhicitta, where it has not arisen, may it arise. Where it has arisen, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Changchu Semcho Rinpoche Maje Banam Ge Gyurche Ge Ba Nyam Ba Me Pa Yang Gone Gong Du Be War Sho. So our next class will be on Tuesday morning, Tuesday evening, depending on where you are.
下一堂课是下个星期二。
Okay,
好，谢谢。
Tata.
Gracias.
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 Thank you.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias, Dr. Lee.